Welcome to Lunch with Tech Leaders, where we have engaging conversations about software development and cloud engineering with industry leaders and subject matter experts. These episodes are created by the Great Lakes Tech Leaders, an online community of technology practitioners. Please come join the conversation by visiting gltl.rbn.ai. Again, that's gltl.rbn.ai. Now strap in, because we're deploying to production in 3, 2, 1.
Tech Leaders, my name is Derek DeJonghe, and I'm your host for today. Joining me is software and data consultant Tom Kowalski. Tom, say hello for us.
Hello.
And it's my honor to introduce our co-host, subject matter expert, Rick McGarry. Thanks for joining us, Rick. In this episode, we're going to discuss influencing our teams to stay on top of the latest in technology. Technology is always evolving. We've got new trends, new tools, and team members that we, have to allow and influence to keep things up to date here. So let's go around and see how we're doing that today. Personally, I like podcasts and conferences, things like that, to kind of keep myself in tune with what's going on. Do you guys have anything for kind of just like your personal how you keep up to date personally?
I really like conferences myself. I feel like they stimulate a lot of my desire to learn things and give me a lot of exposure to new concepts.
For me, lately I've been liking watching streams, right? Either on Twitch or something of other people, and you can see what tools they're using. That's something I haven't done in the past, but I've been enjoying that because you get to see other people's workflows and the tools and technologies that they're using. So
it's a good way to do that too. For my teams, I like them participating in cross-functional projects too, because it gets them exposure to different ways of doing things and stuff like that.
Paired programming, it definitely helps with that.
Great. I think it's important to prioritize staying current. So giving that impression to your team that this is important to not only you but the organization that you're with, definitely helps influence team members to keep an eye on things, backing them when somebody says, hey, there's this conference, this is what I'm going to learn from it, I think is, and trying to get them funding so that they can get that exposure is also, pretty important.
Yeah, it's good to have people talk about what they learn too when they get back. Not everybody can attend every conference.
Yeah, that's a good point. How often do you guys do training sessions? Or have your team, either do online courses or have another team member, put together some sort of curriculum to learn some new technology? Not often enough, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, not often enough.
Yeah, I was wondering, what Rick had to say about it. Yeah, for us, it's nothing's scheduled, right, or enforced learning, but definitely enable our teams to continue learning, right? There's budgets and payouts for certificates and things like that, but definite budgets for conferences and different training programs, apps, subscriptions. So
I do work with my employees individually to try to come up with some kind of professional development plan for them, and a lot of the times that does incorporate Azure or different cloud certs, for the newer folks. And, beyond that, kind of tailored to how people learn. I have some people that are really self-driven and can just go buy a bunch of books on, database theory and structures and go learn it. And, so there's kind of balancing that personal, professional development, also, taking into account the organization's needs and the direction, we're going with technology, and trying to lay the plan to get that knowledge as well.
Cool. What about the ever-changing landscape of tools? I feel like you work a project, you've got your tool set, and sometimes teams will get stuck in their ways, and you can keep using that hammer, right? How are we influencing people to take a look at like new tool? I guess that's what we're looking at. I guess that's exactly what we were just talking about, right? Getting exposure through conferences and so on.
I think it depends on how your organization is structured and the culture, right? It makes a big difference. If your teams are more autonomous, right, and they are enabled to make those decisions themselves on what technologies they want to learn that will help them in their day to day and where the business is going, where that product or application, right, where they want to take it, versus maybe more of a top down. So I feel like it kind of depends on what your company culture is
Right.
on how you go about that.
It's kind of like when right time and place, right?
Yeah.
Going at like if you added to a team and they've been using a certain paradigm for the entire time they've been operating, and come in and it's like, oh well, let's use this whole new tool. I mean, it might not be the right time or place. So making the call on when that is kind of a interesting juncture, I suppose.
It's a good thing to keep an eye out for, because that's the right time and place might be an opening for you to encourage some change. There's, at least for me, there's a lot of resistance in a lot of different directions. You've got team structures. I work at a large company. We have a lot of different products that are somewhat autonomous themselves, and you've got like the legal compliance review process, and it's just it's like you got to pick your battles sometime. Something that I've liked too is taking advantage of new hires. There's this onboarding process where they're green and they need exposure, and that has been a good time to kind of put them on a project that maybe you couldn't justify at another time as part of their learning experience and onboarding.
And to add to the getting stuck in your ways, I kind of tend to, when we bring in someone new, to kind of hide some of the skeletons in the closet, right? Some of the older things that we have, so they don't get accustomed to. That's the way that we do things around here, and they feel like they need to continue perpetuate maybe some bad practices. So keeping them on more of the greener projects where they can learn the better practices and the tools and where we want to go forward.
That, and also bring their experience to the table, right? Like new hires aren't always green. Some of them have a lot of really good experience and a lot of knowledge, and that maybe with a different tool set or pattern in their development, that could be really beneficial to the team.
Yeah, totally.
What about mentorship? You guys doing any mentor programs?
A little bit.
Yeah. If you want to speak to it. Not my current role, we don't really, not internally.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that everybody tries to do, but it's hard to keep up on. I really never nailed that, like why that is down, right? And it's something that I think is extremely beneficial, but kind of once people kind of get into the role, it kind of just falls by the wayside.
I've done some like strategic paired programming setups with folks to kind of get them a little bit of a mentorship, but it's kind of a mixed bag. You have to find compatible people and skill sets, and there's all these tools to kind of help, but I haven't found those to be very useful if you just pair people up with random people.
I think that's an interesting idea, right? Like strategically, like, okay, well, this person needs to learn this, and here's an expert on that. Let's put them together for a couple weeks or something like that, so they can kind of like figure things out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you always got to be on the lookout for it too, right? Like what projects are coming up, what makes sense.
Yeah, I do a lot cross-functionally too, so it's good to chat with other leaders about that and kind of work with them to kind of come up with a pairing.
Cool. How about like identifying and like evaluating new technology or trends? So you guys have any type of like pilot projects or like proof of concept or like a way to like do a proof of concept and kind of like fail fast with new technology, or are we kind of just seeing if it works within a project? I guess you kind of have to do a proof of concept with things.
Yeah,
Right?
usually we like to do. We're doing something new. It's usually not something customer facing, right? That has deadlines and other teams are depending on it. It's usually maybe something internal. We'll start with and testing it out. And some of the teams that are a little more advanced and do work on the internal team things, that they kind of start with those, right? Those proof of concepts, and then kind of go from there.
It's a hard thing, I think, as your company gets bigger. Obviously, proof of concept, but then you have to sometimes deal with tech review boards and business case and all that, and there's a lot of energy you have to put into something just to
Right.
potentially justify it.
Like you mentioned, legal review of the EULA, probably interesting to go through, huh?
But that being said, it's no problem for you to spin something up on your own and evaluate it, before you have to invest that much energy and time into it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So being really receptive to, your organization's pain points is a good starting point, I think.
Yeah, kind of finding like, not just looking for new technology for the case of new technology, but like identifying applicable use cases.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's always a balance too, right? With working with product managers or owners or whatever you want to call them, and kind of that are working the schedules and introducing new technologies, right? Where you might not know the all the unknowns. There might be some unknown unknowns, right? And so it is a balance, right? Of how much you want to introduce, how much change you want to introduce whenever working on something new, too.
Mhm.
We're not always in decision-making positions either, so influencing by, showing off something new and, making that decision easy for them with documentation and or support or whatever really goes a long way.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? Again, it depends on the company culture, but having that transparency, across the teams of, hey, this is what we did, and we were able to move fast and deliver value, or make it much more secure, cost effective, right? Being able to demonstrate that, and it kind of puts like a little bit of pressure on the other teams to kind of be like, when they see that and it's now they're being compared, right? It kind of motivates them to, hey, yeah, I want to adopt that. I want our application or whatever to be faster, cheaper. Yeah, transparency really helps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Knowledge sharing across teams, across individuals. We when I was with Right Brain, we took some time every Friday just to discuss what we had done that week, kind of share aspects of what's been going on. I thought that was really good for the team.
And it doesn't have to be synchronous either, right? With your messaging platform, whatever you have, it's hey, this is what we have, or your internal wiki, making sure it's propped up there for others to see or whatever, and what you're working on, and that helps too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knowledge sharing is a whole subject on its own. Fridays are great for that, though. I've done a number of demo kind of show off your stuff, what you learned Friday type things. Those have been really good. And even incorporating elements where you're letting people share what they're personally working on is usually pretty motivating too.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Because a lot of us work on things on our own time, and sometimes those projects are really small and using bleeding edge stuff, and it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just gets the gears turning for everybody else, or puts, like you said, some motivation into folks. Inspiration, probably a better term.
Yeah, I think it helps build community too, and helps people bond, and there's a lot of good there.
We all mentioned conferences. Have you guys ever gone to one of those like pre-conference hackathon or like learning days or anything like that?
Yeah, I would. I've done the pre, before reInvent, they do like a big hackathon, like the night before, and I've done that for a few years.
Hmm.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. You said it was a hackathon. Was it? Were you learning new stuff or?
Usually they partner with some type of charity or nonprofit, and you split off into teams, and they have there's different variations of them. Usually not everybody's working on the same thing, but it's working with different charities or different problems that they have. But yeah, that's also a lot of fun too, right? Because you're working with people that aren't in your organization, and how they do things, and what they use. And so yeah, it's I really liked it. Great learning. Yeah.
I've never done one personally, but I was wondering how much value is there. I feel like there's always something to be learned, obviously.
It's interesting that you said the community, Rick. You said building the community, because that's the most important aspect I learned when doing these hackathons. Just a pro tip is you want to have like your icebreakers first, and you want to have everyone comfortable with each other working together. It's a big proponent of that, and it makes things a lot better.
Yeah, I think that's increasingly important too, as many of us continue to work remotely. Building and fostering those relationships are really, really important to the overall success of whatever we're doing.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely learned quite a bit from friends as far as like what they're checking in, see what they're working on, kind of give some inspiration.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You have to be a lot more intentional about it, I think, not being in the office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I feel like we definitely get kind of like lost in our own home offices.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get any newsletters about this topic at all? I get one called Software Lead Weekly that I find is pretty. Usually got a couple good tidbits in there. It starts off with like something to make you laugh, and then there's like 3 to 5 articles. So definitely some recommendation for me on that one.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I don't get any personally. I keep getting targeted ads for them though.
Yep. I think, man, I don't know how long I've been getting this. Let's see. Wow, a long time.
But yeah, you like it?
Yeah, I've definitely. I've been subscribed to this since 2017. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. I like the recommendations of newsletters, right? There can be a lot of junk out there. So
Oh
yeah.
Check that out.
Softwareleadweekly.com, I think, is where you go to sign up for that. How do you guys address feedback from like the team on, say we something didn't work out? I guess it depends on kind of what the issue is, right? Like, do we rip and replace some sort of technology if it's just like straight not working out, or do we make a plan to replace or address, or I guess it really depends on what type of situation we're looking at here, right?
Yeah, and the culture, right? Is the team empowered to make those decisions, right? To operate autonomously, or is it? Yeah, is there a lot more constraints, influence, approvals, change boards, things of that nature that have to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Firstly, I think just capturing those, that feedback and doing that learning review or retrospectives, the first thing to do. And like you're saying, it may not be something you can do anything with at the time, but it may come up later, and it's good to capture that when it's fresh in your mind.
Good point.
Yeah, and I guess it depends, right, on what the issue is and what's going on, but capturing it right then, but maybe not necessarily changing, controls and processes every time something breaks or whatever, because it can be really easy to just implement a lot more constraints and controls each time something happens that may actually have more detrimental effects.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of constant evaluation we have to do as leaders. Are things worth the time, the risk? What's our priority? What's our long-term goals? Trying to figure out a sane way to navigate that.
Good points. All right, coming up on time here. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the topic before we close out?
I really liked what you said, Ashley. Like, strive to stay current. I think that's the big thing is if you can get close enough to current, that makes your life easier. Otherwise you're just dealing with, it just gets harder and there's more toil involved and more garbage to go through to modernize. And it's worth the time investment to stay current or stay close to current before you get into that territory where you might just have to rip and replace something and deal with a ton of pain because there's not a good pathway forward. So
yeah, definitely. I see what you mean. Like when you got aging technology, the longer it goes, it might be harder to replace or kind of upgrade, right?
It's your whole stack. Some things are fun to work on, some things aren't. You just gotta, you gotta make sure you don't get numb to things that are problems and forget about them.
Shoot, I mean, you could say this even if you're not switching out the technology and just upgrading versions, right?
Yeah.
That's it's not something the company usually wants to make the investment in because it's kind of, just dealing with tech debt. But it's really important because when you're trying to go, 6 different major versions up on Postgres or something, you've got things to deal with. You've got to change your code, so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, especially stuff like that where they've been in production potentially for, years or a decade or something, and you've just had this, boiling. We're the frog boiling here, but like the toil and the management required to maintain that just kind of it slowly has been creeping up since then, and now it's just this tolerable thing that everyone just accepts. But maybe there's something better out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
At play when making those decisions, right? There's the obvious security, compliance, things like that. But then when it comes down to, is this, hindering our velocity, right? Is that worth that investment to, upfront some time to, make it so we can move faster in the future? And there's risk and everything associated with that. So it's not easy.
Truth. All right. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Lunch with Tech Leaders. I hope you found the conversation informative and valuable. Join us for the next episode where we discuss unlocking the secrets of agile programming. And as always, the episode will feature expert guests and interactive conversations, so be sure to tune in.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.